Welcome to section 4.1 part 2. We're going to start with the topic how to find the absolute maximum and minimum values of a continuous function f on a closed interval from a to b. Step 1, you're going to find the critical values of f in the open interval from a to b. Remember, the critical values come from finding where the derivative is equal to 0 and where it does not exist. Step 2, find f of a and f of b. So you're going to evaluate the function at its endpoints on the interval. And then step 3, the absolute maximum is going to be the largest value from steps 1 and 2. So you're going to plug in all the critical values into the function as well as the endpoints a and b. And whichever yields the largest function value, the largest y value, that's going to be your absolute maximum. The absolute minimum is the smallest function value from steps 1 and 2 again. Okay, so we have two examples coming up where we'll see how to apply this process. So first example, find the absolute maximum and absolute minimum values of f of x equals the quantity x squared minus 1 cubed on the interval from -1 to 2. So step 1, we're going to find the critical values of f. Okay, so that comes from finding the derivative f prime of x and then identifying where it equals 0 and where it doesn't exist. So let's find f prime of x first. So to find f prime of x, I'm going to use the chain rule. Since I have the quantity x squared minus 1 cubed, the derivative is going to be 3. Leave that quantity alone. The new exponent is to the second power. I still have x squared minus 1, and then by the chain rule, I have to multiply by the derivative of x squared minus 1, which is 2x. So we get 6x times x squared minus 1, x squared minus 1 squared. Okay, so this is our derivative. Now, we need to find the critical values, and those come from two places. So the first one is where f prime of x is equal to 0. So I'm going to set the derivative equal to 0. I'm going to set 6x times x squared minus 1 squared equal to 0. And then to solve this, I'm going to use the zero product property, right? So either 6x is equal to 0 or x squared minus 1 squared is 0. So solving here, we get either x is 0 or x squared minus 1 is 0, so x would be plus or minus 1. The other case that yields critical values is when f prime of x does not exist. But notice in this case, my derivative is a polynomial, and we know the domain of a polynomial is all real numbers. It's defined everywhere. So we don't yield, or there are no critical values from this case. So the critical numbers are x equals -1, +1, and 0. Now from here, I have to plug these into the original function f of x and compare what the y values or the function values are. So let's remember f of x was x squared minus 1 cubed. Okay, so f of -1 is 0. F of +1 is also 0. And f of 0 is -1. So we're going to put these on the back burner. Step 1 is complete. Now step 2, I have to find f of a and f of b. And remember, the interval was -1 to 2. So f of a is f of -1. Well, we already have that. That was actually one of our critical values. That's 0. And f of b, f of 2, that's going to be 2 squared minus 1 cubed. So that's 3 cubed, which is 27. All right, so now we're ready to identify our absolute max and min. So absolute max, absolute min, Well, where do I find them? I'm going to compare all the function values from step 1 and from step 2. So do you notice which y value is the largest for our absolute max? Well, it occurs at x equals 2, and the max value is 27. So our absolute max is f of 2, which is 27. Be sure you write your answer that way. Don't just write 27. Identify where it occurs, f of 2. What about our absolute min? Well, look here. Our absolute min occurs when x is equal to 0 and our y value is -1. So the absolute min is f of 0, which is -1. And that's our final answer. Okay. Now, obviously, it can get a little more complicated if the derivative is a little trickier to evaluate. So that's what we're going to look at in the next example. Okay. Find the absolute minimum and the absolute maximum values of f of t equals t times the square root of 25 minus t squared on the interval from -1 to 5. Okay, so here we go. Same three-step process. So step 1, we're going to take the derivative. So I'm going to rewrite f of t. F of t is t times the square root of 25 minus t squared. So f prime of t is going to equal, now I need to use the product rule when I take this derivative. So I'll just bring down t, leave that alone. Now I'm going to take the derivative of the square root of 25 minus t squared. So we know we're going to have 2 rad 25 minus t squared in the denominator times a -2t in the numerator, right? Plus, now I take the derivative of t, which is just 1, and then I have square root 25 minus t squared left alone. Okay, so now let's clean this up. So looking up above, these 2's are going to cancel. So I have here -t squared over the square root of 25 minus t squared plus the square root of 25 minus t squared. Now I need to get a common denominator here for this derivative. So the common denominator is rad 25 minus t squared. Remember, this is over 1. So I'm going to need to multiply this by rad 25 minus t squared over rad 25 minus t squared. And then now I'm going to have a -t squared plus, now be careful, when I multiply these two together in the numerator, rad 25 minus t squared squared is just going to give me 25 minus t squared. And then we have the common denominator, rad 25 minus t squared. So then in the numerator, I'm left with 25 minus 2t squared over the square root of 25 minus t squared. So here's our derivative, okay, all cleaned up and ready to go. Lovely. Now let's go ahead and find the critical values. So critical numbers or critical values come from two places. So first place is when f prime of t is equal to 0. So I'm just going to set the numerator equal to 0. 25 minus 2t squared equals 0. So solving from here, that would mean 25 is equal to 2t squared, which means t squared would equal 25 over 2. And so t would equal plus or minus 5 over rad 2. Now remember, our interval was from -1 to 5. And so -5 over rad 2 is not in that interval. It's smaller than -1. So the only critical number is positive 5 over rad 2. So I'll just make a note. -5 over rad 2 is not interval for this particular problem, okay? Good. Now let's evaluate the function at that number. So f of 5 over rad 2 is going to be 5 over rad 2 times the square root of 25 minus that number squared, so 25 minus 25 over 2. Okay, so here we're going to have 5 over rad 2 times the square root. 25 minus 25 over 2, that's 50 over 2 minus 25 over 2, so that's another 25 over 2, all underneath the radical. So then this is going to give me 5 over rad 2 times 5 over rad 2, which is 25 over 2. Okay, so there's our y value from the first critical number. We're going to put that on the back burner, okay? Lovely. Now, let's see from our other case for critical values if the derivative does not exist. Let's see if that yields any. Okay, so first part's done. We set f prime of t equal to 0. What about if f prime of t does not exist? Is that possible here? Well, look, we see that our derivative would not exist if, in this case, we have a radical expression in the denominator. So not only if that quantity were to equal 0, but also if the expression underneath the radical was negative. So what we're going to do is have to solve the inequality 25 minus t squared is less than or equal to 0, right? That would make our denominator undefined. So 25 minus t squared, that factors into 5 minus t times 5 plus t. And when you're solving a quadratic inequality, remember, don't do anything illegal. You don't set each of the factors less than or equal to 0. You make a number line, you test your intervals. So I'm going to put the zeros of each of the factors on the number line, -5 and 5, and then test which ones fall within the range where it would give me a quantity less than or equal to 0. So something like -6. That first factor would be positive, the second one would be negative, so that would give me a negative quantity. If I plug in something like 0, that would give me a positive value, so that wouldn't give me an issue. And then if I plug in something larger than 5, also that gives me a negative. So we see that f prime does not exist for t values from -infinity to -5, union 5 to infinity, right? The zeros as well as all the other values. Now remember, we're only considering the interval from -1 to +5. So the only x value that falls within that range that could be a critical number is +5. Okay. Also remember, critical numbers need to be within the domain of the function. And if I look back at my original function, since it also included the rad 25 minus t squared in the expression, the domain for f is only from -5 to 5. So I couldn't have a critical number outside of that interval. All right, critical numbers have to be within the domain of the function. So that's my new critical number. I'm going to go ahead and evaluate the function there. So f of 5 is going to be 5 times rad 25 minus 5 squared. So 5 times 0, which is 0. So we're done there. Okay, on to step 2. We're going to evaluate the function at the endpoints, -1 and 5. So f of -1, that's going to be -1 times the square root of 25 minus -1 squared. So that's negative rad 24, which is -2 rad 6. And for comparison purposes, that's about -4.899. The other value, the endpoint 5, we actually already have it because it was a critical value from earlier. All right, lovely. So now we're going to box both those y values as we get ready for step 3, because we're going to have to identify the absolute max and absolute min. So comparing all the results from step 1, the function values at the critical values, as well as the function values at the endpoints from step 2, what is our absolute max? Well, if you said 25 over 2, you are right. So f of 5 over rad 2, which is 25 over 2, is our absolute max. Now, what about our absolute min? Do we have one? Yep, it's right here. Now, you don't want to give that decimal approximation. You want to give the exact value. So our absolute min is f of -1, which is -2 rad 6. So that's our final answer. And as a note, it is possible to have more than one absolute max value as long as they're the same y value. So it could occur in more than one place, meaning like if I had another x value that also gave me 25 over 2, those would both be the absolute max. Okay? So if you have any questions, you can leave them below or join me for office hours later on as scheduled. And that concludes section 4.1.